The following is a Barrett Sports Media production. There are two sides to the broadcast industry: content creators and moneymakers. This podcast is for that second group: sellers, buyers, managers, anyone with an interest in business. You're all welcome here. This is Seller to Seller. Now, here's your host, Jeff Cabes.
Adam Shifrin is the Vice President of Sports Sales and Marketing at Westwood One. Adam's been with Westwood One in sports sales for about 8 years and the VP for almost 2. Westwood One, if you need a reminder, provides radio broadcasts of the NFL for the regular season, the playoffs, and the Super Bowl, March Madness, NHL, PGA Championship, and a lot of other NCAA sports in the championship levels. Adam's background, which we'll discuss, includes some time spent in industries other than broadcast media. And we start there. Where are you based in your job with Westwood One?
I'm based in Chicago. So we have a number of different offices across the country. As you shared, I've been in the position here for about 2 years now. Started with Westwood in September of 2014. So just passed the 8-year mark with the organization. And it's been a great experience. Continue to learn every single day, and fortunate to be in the position that I am today, leading the sales and marketing for our dedicated sports programming.
So let's go back to some of your background prior to 2014, and tell me how this came about. Because as we'll hear, it wasn't the classic, I spent 10 years in this market doing radio. Tell me how you get to Westwood One.
Absolutely. So it's just a classic story of things happening for different reasons. When I was in school and right when I got out of school, I was working for my grandfather's business. He owned a very successful corrugated packaging company based here in Chicago. And quite frankly, I thought it was going to be the path that I was going to take. And 2008 comes around, and everything that happened with, the financial markets and housing markets and just the economy in general, things took a different turn, and wound up making the decision after an acquisition of the business that, the new company, the new direction wasn't going to be for me. Honestly, I wasn't really sure of what I wanted to do, and was able to hook up with some people I knew here in Chicago that were in the produce business, and thought, hey, this is something that everybody's going to need. I was in the produce business, selling watermelons and potatoes and any commodity that you can think of for about 5-6 years, and again got to the point where I just knew that it wasn't really going to be something that I wanted to do long term, and started having conversations with people I knew in the area, and just really, as quite frankly, as fate would have it, was talking with a friend of mine who I've known, from growing up, who was a former worker. He worked at Westwood One back in the I would say the early to mid 2000s.
Okay.
And I was just sort of explaining what I wanted to do, and he knew my passions. We grew up playing baseball and basketball and everything together. We're big sports fans here in Chicago. He said, hey, listen, I got a phone call from this guy at Westwood One. His name's Brandon Berman. He is he's leading the sports division now at Westwood One. He got promoted, and he's looking to build upon his team. And I know you haven't spent any time in the media industry, but obviously you know how to sell and you love sports. And I think the third part of that triangle of learning the media business is something that you can pick up in time. That was the summer of 2014, and by September of 2014, I was on board with Westwood, and my responsibilities at the time were really leading the Midwest, and then over time was able to take on responsibilities focusing on Texas. I had added responsibilities to take on some leadership roles out on the West Coast, and then eventually took over the sales on the West Coast. And just again, as sort of course of business and the pandemic and everything, had the opportunity, as there were promotions internally, specifically for Brandon Berman, to take on a greater role outside of just sports sales and marketing to lead the team for our dedicated sales of our sports portfolio here at Westwood One.
All right. So Adam, I want you to answer this. And think about what you've heard about other industries, and sometimes in the media business, they'll say, you know what, I'd rather hire a guy that doesn't have any habits, that we can train our way. Now, that's all well and good when you're selling in markets 100 through 150 and you're going to mom and pa's and you're cutting your teeth. But somebody at Westwood One, perhaps was it Brandon, who said, I want somebody with no habits and I'm going to teach him how to do this the right way. So looking back on it, is that what happened? And what were the benefits or maybe the drawbacks of that?
It 100% was, Jeff. It's funny. The two businesses that I was in beforehand, there were really important things I was able to grab from the packaging industry and then the produce industry to kind of combine into what we need here in our line of work. From the packaging industry, it was a very consultative type sale. It was a specialty type sale. It wasn't a commodity. So we really had to prove the value of what we were providing to our customers. Then you go over to the produce industry, which quite frankly, it was more of a commodity. And so when we think about our business, depending on the client, sometimes it's more of a consultative sale, sometimes it's more of a commodity sale in different scenarios. And so I think Brandon and some of the leadership at the time saw that I had this diverse background and could take from different pieces. And then quite, a passion for sports and that blank slate of, hey, this guy doesn't know any better, but we know he can sell. And, we're going to take a flyer here, and it worked out for everyone.
To get to the whole gross rating point, cost per point, whatever efficiencies the buyers are asking you, and how to look at markets and national sports sales and categories and all the different things a national advertiser wants. Was that learning curve steeper than you thought or easier than you thought?
I would say it was pretty short, to be honest with you. I mean, there were some questions I asked in the first 3 to 6 months that I look back and I crack up thinking about. So much of what we do, at least from the sports sales and sponsorship side, mm-hmm. Sure, the math is important and the rating points are important, but it's falls more into that consultative type sale, mm-hmm. and in understanding how to sell the value of what we're doing. And the rating points and the impressions and, on a market by market are things that are certainly important. But it's almost secondary to what we're doing at the network level and the national level with our sales of the NFL and the NCAA. It certainly took a little bit of time, but again, not as important as understanding the value of the product that we're selling.
Adam, help me. Looking at all the packages you sell, and I just mentioned the majority of them, and CBS Sports Radio, which I didn't mention. There are a lot of one-offs. There's a lot of one-off events, Frozen Fours, things that are over a weekend. Of course, the NCAA basketball tournament is March Madness, so yep. We know when that happens. The NFL, though, is this weekly opportunity to build reach and frequency of a marketing calendar for 21 weeks or 23 weeks or whatever that is. So are you approaching people differently? And tell me about the benefits, like when you're selling the NFL package, because of the time that you get to sell and versus some of the one-off deals and how some of that packaging may work for you in sales.
It's a different beast than anything that we do. So you mentioned that it is it's a 23-week season when you look at just the regular season and then the postseason. There's a number of different ways that we go about it. I mean, we have full season partners that are on Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, every postseason game, Pro Bowl, Super Bowl. And the way that we attack that's a little bit differently than what we may attack. We just got off of our annual Thanksgiving triple header. So the way that we approach, maybe some retailers specifically to try to take advantage of Black Friday or Cyber Mondays is different than what we do, for full season sponsors. So every situation is different. And I think with experience, you understand how to, be consultative and share, when you're trying to build reach and frequency over the course of a 23-week campaign, as opposed to, hey, this is a sales activation that we got to get people in stores for Black Friday. We need to get them online for Cyber Monday. It's just different. And that's one of the things that I love about our business. I mean, you look at the advertisers that we have on, and whether it's the NCAA or if it's the NFL, we have partners in so many different categories. So you get to learn the nuances of different industries and the way that a retailer may differ from a business to business client or an insurance client. You have to have enough understanding of everybody's business to really know how we can drive as much value for the individual partners, because no two situations are alike.
Let's go back to one of the fundamental questions I'm sure buyers have when maybe they don't know enough about what you're selling, and we can just use the Super Bowl or the NFL. Most people watch it on TV if they can. So just take me through that. Here's who listens and where they are and how they do this and how you pitch that.
Sure. It's a really good question. So, unless you're taking a 5-hour drive, most people will not sit in the driveway listening to the Super Bowl on Westwood One. We do have we have had some feedback online, especially during the NCAA tournament, where people are listening to the game and they get to their house and they don't want to get off the dial because they have Kevin Kugler calling the game. We had some great interaction on Twitter last March Madness during that great North Carolina comeback against Baylor. I think it was on a Saturday in the first or second round. But that's doesn't happen often. Most of our audience, will tune in out of home, and people come and go. We are not something that, like I said, unless you're taking a 4 or 5 hour car ride, you're not going to tune into the full broadcast. So we know that frequency is key, because you need to have enough frequency to reach people over the course of a 3 or 4 hour broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also share that we know that we're starting to get a lot more listenership on digital platforms. So this is the first year ever that all of our NFL primetime broadcasts from Monday through Sunday night and the postseason Super Bowl will be available digitally, something that we've been working for with the NFL for a long time, and we were finally able to get it off the ground this year. So we know that we're getting more digital listenership than ever before. But again, most of the listenership is coming from the car. People are listening when you're talking about the NFL on average, mostly between a quarter to a full half, an hour ish when they're in their commutes. We know that Monday and Thursday night, key drive time scenarios, you think about it, we go on air at 8:00 Eastern time, 5:00 Pacific. So if you're sitting out on the West Coast, and anyone who's driven in Los Angeles or, raise your hand,
done that.
We've all been there.
Thank God you're there.
Yeah. We know that we have a captive audience that, more than likely are getting home, and, we'll turn on the TV broadcast, whether it be, ESPN or Amazon Prime on Thursday nights. But, we're the best screen away from the screen when people want to be listening and consuming NFL products. And same thing goes for the NCAA. It's, we're very complimentary to our video brethren. When we're talking to advertisers, we always encourage them to think about the sport holistically, and don't just think about the fact that people are only going to be listening or only going to be watching. If you're a sports fan, you want that content, no matter where you are. So we know that people are seeking out content. We know we fit into the overall ecosystem of sports fandom.
So how do you tackle with certain buyers where they lead right away with, nobody listens to the radio, Adam? I mean, is this where the digital thing comes right out? Or do you slow down and say, really? Have you ever mowed the lawn, or have you ever went to the store when you needed a 6-pack, or how do you handle it?
It's something that we heard a lot 5-6 years ago, right? And I would say that we don't hear it as much anymore. And the reason for that is, I think that response was an uneducated response. And the partners that we work with from a buying perspective or from a client or strategy perspective, they've done a good job educating themselves, and we've helped in that education. I'd really call out the work that the Audio Active group at Westwood One and Cumulus Media have done, led by Pierre Bouvard. We have done a great job of advocating for the entire audio industry and really educating the marketplace, the buyers, the strategy teams of this thought that no one listens to radio is just not true. And we go to the data. Our Audio Active group has done a great job of really breaking down, how people consume audio, where they consume audio, for how much time, again, how it fits into the overall ecosystem of sports fandom. you have to just go straight to the data. Quite frankly, it also helps that the podcast industry has taken off. So people who may not have thought of audio a few years ago, well, hey, do you listen to a podcast?
Good point.
I do. Then that translates really well to the fact that now all of our NFL broadcasts, our NCAA broadcasts, CBS Sports Radio, it's all available digitally and streaming. So you don't have to be sitting in your car. You can go to, you can go to your phone, and I mean, there's just so many different ways that people can consume content. And our play-by-play is it's a 360-degree audio platform. So the same NFL broadcast that you hear on, WFAN in New York, or the Score here in Chicago, or KMBR out in San Francisco, you can literally go from your AM/FM radio dial to Sirius XM channel 88 to the NFL app to your favorite streaming platform, and it's one continuous broadcast. So it's not so much about a radio broadcast anymore as it is an audio broadcast. I think people understand that now because their own personal habits have morphed into listening on a mobile device. So whether it's listening to your favorite podcast or streaming music or whatever it is, it's become easier for them to comprehend the fact that, oh, well, I can listen to the NFL or the NCAA the same way I listen to other programs.
You mentioned Pierre Bouvard. We got to mention Bruce Gilbert. He's important to the sports radio industry, one of the great minds in the business. You get to work next to Bruce. Not everybody may know his involvement in Westwood One is extensive as it is in sports radio with stations across the country.
I do have the pleasure of working with Bruce really close on a number of different aspects of our business, whether it be the CBS Sports Radio Network. Bruce has been instrumental in all the partnerships that we have, specifically with the NFL, with our rights agreement with the NFL, and working with those guys on a daily and weekly basis, along with the NCAA. So yeah, we've been with Westwood and Cumulus for about the same amount of time. I think I came on about 6 months before Bruce, but he's so well respected within the industry. Has so many just great connections, and he's seen a lot. And
hasn't he seen? Yeah.
Yes, and is very even keeled and understands how if there are problems, how to get problems solved, and really for the benefit of everyone.
All right, Adam. So just briefly, I'm going to ask you two questions of advice for sports radio sellers. And number one, though, right here, I want to ask you about that client avatar. When Adam's going out selling whatever property, I'm sure there's avatars. There's certain clients that would really fit and they're ideal for what you're selling. So what would that avatar look like? Sure.
So when I think of the person or the organization that we want to work with, it's someone that views us as an extension of their own marketing and sales team. The best campaigns that we're able to bring to life are the campaigns we work with organizations that kind of open up the hood a little bit for us and say, hey, this is the strategy for, during March Madness, or this is the strategy during the NFL season. And we're doing X, Y, or Z socially. We're doing this with, Fox or Amazon Prime. How can we take that and, how can we bring that same strategy to life in an audio perspective? And we have just a number of great partnerships we've done over the years where you think about different activations for individual brands that cross channels. And so when I'm thinking about a brand that I want to work with, I want to think about, I'm going after a partner that understands the value of what Westwood One can bring to the table, to help the overall strategy of campaigns. Because, when you silo things, they don't work together. But when you open up those silos and you can, really understand what they're trying to achieve at a holistic standpoint, that's where we see the greatest success. And those are the brands and people that we want to work with as partners.
All right. So you came into this business in 2014. You got sports radio sellers going into 2023. You're selling regionally and nationally. And we got the next couple of years to think about. But when you think about it, what's your best advice to those individuals that are in that business looking for partners like you? What's some of those success nuggets you could offer?
Listen with two ears and speak with one mouth. Again, I think the best partnerships that we have and our longest partnerships that we have are ones where there's just a lot of communication back and forth. From a sales perspective, I would say that we need to continue to show the value that we're bringing to our partners. Thinking creatively, how can we take what we're doing on air and extend it to to social media campaigns? How can we do things on site? How can we how can we continue to bring unique value propositions to our clients? The categories themselves are going to go up and down, so I wouldn't say, hey, let's dive into this category or that category. I mean, a year ago, we were all looking around saying, how do we get in the crypto space? Well, that's not exactly a place we want to be right now, right? So, it's always, seeing opportunities out there and, continuing to figure out how we can provide value to our clients. And then not only are we going to, say what we're going to do, but also be proud of the work that we've done and show clients of, hey, this is a campaign that I did with a certain brand, and I think these are some ideas we can take from it and customize it, or customize it for your brand and really bring your message to life, whether it's using our talent or if it's something that we can do on site. Really creating unique, valuable campaigns for clients across a lot of different categories.
Thanks to Adam Shifrin for joining me here on Seller to Sell. You can find more information on Adam on LinkedIn. Please review and subscribe to this pod. Pass it along. That's how we grow it. Email me, jeffcase54@gmail.com with interview requests. Check barrettsportsmedia.com for weekly sales columns and past pods. I will talk to you next week.